Hello, 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 beautiful people. It's Toria Howard, the real estate educator, and I'm here to educate you. And today we are talking about house. How much house can you afford? House math. I was gonna say house math, but it is house math. But how much house can you afford? So, comment, subscribe, share, do all of the great things, and we're going to get into it. So, I am a real estate educator and I assist individuals and families on how to increase their financial IQ in order to purchase a personal property or an investment property. So, if you are one of those people, just because I'm a licensed real estate agent in the state of Michigan does not mean that I cannot assist you. Definitely reach out in the comments. My link will be in the description where you can get an info session with me. So my Pathway to Keys program is designed strictly for first-time home buyers, and I can't wait to share with you all. So what we're talking about today, Little House Math. How much house can you afford? A lot of people have a problem with this concept because you might be paying what you're paying in rent, but it might not be your housing costs because your housing costs you have to include principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and your utilities, and you got home warranty. So you'll have more expenses. So if you may pay $1,800 in rent, but only can afford 1,500, so it just all depends on your situation and how financially savvy and literate you are. So most buyers shop based on what the lender says that they can afford, just by the numbers. So for instance, I have a client who has been pre-approved for 224,000. I am going to suggest that she doesn't use that whole thing, but smart buyers shop based on what life what life they want to have, because you don't want to lose your lifestyle, for a house. So your housing budget should only be like 30% of your total income. So out of those two numbers, you're actually, looking for the difference between your income and your housing budget. So you want to make sure you're keeping your lifestyle though. If you have children, they are going to want to do activities. You have to buy clothes. Children are a bill, extra food in the summertime. So all of these things have to come into effect because a lot of times as parents, as I am, your food costs, your energy costs, those type of things go up in the different times of year, depending on if you are, your children go to school or they're homeschooled or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of different factors. So the affordability lie, let's talk about it. So, pre approval does not equal comfort. You want to be comfortable in your home. You don't want to be house poor. You don't want to be in a house that you can't afford and then you're miserable and then you want to sell it and you can't sell it because you might have some type of different parameters or things that come about on your from your loan, or other parameters might keep you from selling really quickly. So you need to make sure that when you're going in that you can afford it. So mortgage does not equal total cost. Like I said, your mortgage is only because your mortgage consists of principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. However, you have to add in utilities. You have to add in your home warranty, and you need to add in your emergency maintenance fund, which is 1% of when you first buy a home is your sales price. But once you're in your home, it's whatever your house is worth. So say for instance, if you purchase your home for 200,000, you should have $2,000 a year saved in a high yielding savings account, of course, so that you have emergency funds for any type of repairs that need to be done. And as the time goes on and your house increases in value, you have to increase that. So, but if you take it, and you do it by the months, it's only a couple $100 a month. So you can find that money somewhere. So you have to put those into factor. So once again, your mortgage is principal, interest, taxes, insurance. Then you got to factor in your utilities. Then you have to factor in your home warranty, and then you have to factor in, excuse me, your your 1% emergency fund. So payment doesn't equal lifestyle impact. So you don't want your payment to impact your lifestyle so greatly where you can't do nothing but be in the house. If you know that you like to vacation, you know you like to go, have all the brunches and lunches and dinners and do all those things, you need to factor that into your budget and put it in there. If it's a non-negotiable, like those of you that are married and you have your date nights and sometimes y'all like to splurge, put that in your budget. Don't take that out. Don't lose that. If you have a shopping habit, maybe you want to tone it down some when you first get in. But if you still want to go back to it, then you got to factor that in if it's non-negotiable. If you get haircuts, hairdos, nails, pedicures, all of those things have to be put into place in your budget if it's a non-negotiable. So just think about it like that. So I've seen people be approved with the numbers that would suffocate um, in their monthly lifestyle. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to suffocate. You don't want to feel like you cannot breathe because when you don't have money, don't it feel like you can't breathe? That's what it typically feels like. So the four numbers buyers must know. That's what you need to understand. There's four numbers that you must know. So you need to know your approved number, your comfortable number, your sustainable number, and your strategic number. So your approved number is the number that comes from the lender. So it's going to, based on your income and your debt, they're going to give you a number that you are approved for. Your comfortable number is what you're comfortable with paying every month. So for instance, if you know you're comfortable paying $1,500 a month, but that needs to include principal taxes, principal interest taxes, insurance, utilities, savings, and your home warranty, you want to make sure that those are factored into that and find a house. A sustainable number is something that you can make sure that you can maintain at all times. And then your strategic number is you want to make sure that you are buying smart and you are making sure that that number is strategic enough for you to either, if it's to start a home, move on to the next, so you have money to move on to the next. But if you buy right, you'll be able to use the equity from that home if you want to keep it, or if you sell it, and move on to the next. So you want to make sure that you have a strategy going in. So the real cost of ownership, you may have breakdowns, and a lot of people are scared to buy a home because of that. I had one of my coworkers tell me that, oh, I'm scared of repairs. You have to just be prepared. So you have to make sure that you have the 1% repair budget, which is your, can be your reserves too. But you want to have that 1% repair budget, which is your reserves. You want to know your utilities. And like I said on previous videos, if you call the utility company here in Detroit, it's DTE. You call them and you ask them for an estimation on what the utilities will be in certain months. Because, of course, in the wintertime, between when people probably start turning on the heat between November, some people October, but November until, April sometimes, May into May, depending on what happens, you have to know those numbers. So, your utility cost is going to go up. So you got to factor in that. Any lifestyle changes. So if you're just getting married and you don't have children, you know that you want to have children in the future. That's a lifestyle change. If you're downsizing or if you're an empty nester, that's a lifestyle change. If you have a lot of children and then you added more children, that's a lifestyle change. If you plan on changing careers, that's a lifestyle change. If you plan on becoming a world traveler, that's a lifestyle change. So if you want to become a business owner or, a heavy investor, those are lifestyle changes you got to factor in. And then opportunity costs. You have to know your numbers as far as how much can it rent for, how much can you sell for, and then since we are in the market for like short-term rentals and stuff like that, you want to know that number too. Like what could you put your house on the market for in a short-term rental? I'm talking about like Airbnbs and the likes. So make sure that you understand those numbers and you want to make sure all of those numbers are in alignment with what you're comfortable with. Um, and so, not knowing these breakdowns is why people say they love their house, but they feel broke. And you don't want to feel broke when it comes to your home. You really don't. So make sure you're doing the lifestyle math. Making sure that you understand it, percentage planning, margin creation, emergency structure, post-closing budget. Percentage planning is your interest rate, things of that nature. So you got to know that those numbers, but you'll know those numbers once you get your mortgage. And then you can get those preliminary numbers from your lender. Margin creation is you want to create a margin where you're going to have room to get your equity, or you are have built-in equity already. So if you buy right, you'll have that. Your emergency structure, what I always voice, which is your emergency fund, your reserves, make sure you have that. And then your post closing budget has something to do with the things you want to buy for your home, right? You got to pay for movers, you want to buy furniture, and don't think you have to, like, if you have, say for instance, you go from a two-bedroom house to a a 2-bedroom apartment to a 4-bedroom house. You don't have to fill every room, and you got a basement and all. You don't have to fill every room at once. Fill the rooms that you know that it's most needed, and then do it, however that works for your budget. Now, if you're a baller and you ball out, and you have the money saved already, and you got the money for that budget to fill that house up, definitely do it. But make sure that you understand there will be post closing, uh, money that you have to come up with, especially, you're not gonna be able to get your cousins and all of them to help you move anymore. People like, you gotta pay for movers. Hopefully you're not paying for storage if you're buying a house. You might have to, you might love the house structure, but you might have to, uh, you want to do some renovations. Maybe you want to put down some other flooring, some new, paint or whatever. So make sure that you understand that. And then, so you want to make sure that your house that you choose supports your goals and not replace them. That's the key. So you have a range. You have a price range. So if you go to, like, I know realtor.com does, and I'm not promoting them or anything like that, but realtor.com can show you how much you would have to pay every month in taxes and all that. Might be a little off, because especially Detroit, because our taxes do change, but you need to make sure that you understanding those numbers, because things do change, and you need to be able to factor in how, and making sure you keep it abreast to what is going on in your market. So when you range shopping, you could use realtor.com, and they have tools. If you scroll down, if you look at a house, you find it, you see something that you like, you can use that tool. I will put 3% in there, because, or 3.5%. I will play with both of those numbers. Some as low as 1%. I would say play with 1%, 3%, and 3.5%. Know all those numbers for how much a mortgage will cost. Uh, so then you can see where you are. And if you have to come up with a down payment, maybe you can use your 401k. Maybe you have some stocks you could draw from, whatever. But there are down payment assistance programs, but right now, not a whole lot, depending on where you are. So make sure you check with the local lenders, because a lot of them, if you have a lender, the thing is, the best thing to do is to make sure you have a lender that knows how to stack resources. And what I mean by that is they know how to go out and find you the money for your home. And you have to ask them the questions. Do you stack down payment assistance programs? Do you have access? Do you know of any? Those are some of the questions you need to ask the lender. So you want a financial buffer. So you want to be able to have a buffer in there, so you're not overpaying that. And then, sometimes you want to underestimate instead of overestimate. And then you want to have an exit strategy. And that exit strategy could be sell it, use it as a rental, use the equity to find another home, use it for a short-term rental. Rent out a room, or, whatever the case may be. You got to know which way you want to go with it. So this is one of the reasons why I created my program, Pathway to Keys. Because Pathway to Keys gives you a roadmap, a personalized roadmap, not anything generic, not anything nobody else is going to use, but your own personalized roadmap, depending on where you are. If you're a year out, if you're 6 months out, if you're 90 days out, 60 days, 30 days, I give you that blueprint, and you are able to roll from there. And it's not just me, giving you a piece of paper and just saying, no, I really sit down with you. I do your budget with you. We do the numbers. We see where you can, slack up a little bit. Maybe you found that you are paying, and we do that by looking at your bank statements. We don't just do this off the top of our heads, because our bank statements tells the true meaning of how we're spending our money. And a lot of lenders are looking at your bank statements anyway, so you should be making sure that you are looking at those. So if this is exactly what we if you this is exactly what you want to do, if you want to become a homeowner in 2026, let's build your pathway to keys, your real numbers, your real plan, your real timeline. And that is it. I assist with credit, all of that. I can tell you what lenders are looking for. I know it. I'm different from other realtors out here, okay? I will give you the blueprint of what you need in order to be prepared. And it's not just for Detroit or Michigan. I can help you all across these United States because I know real estate agents all across this country, even in Puerto Rico. So, depending on where you are. So, if you don't know your real numbers and you're not ready to shop yet, book your Pathway to Keys session today. The link will be in the description in the description section on here. Please like, follow, subscribe, share with somebody you feel that needs this information, and grab my ebooks. One is Journeys to Your Castle, which is for first-time home buyers. I'm showing you how to go from concept to mindset because your mindset has to change. Goal setting all the way to the closing table. And then I have House Rich and Money Smart, how to turn your home into a wealth building powerhouse, showing you how to turn your liability into an asset. And let's learn how to buy without being house poor. So I bid you adieu, as they say in Shakespeare. Have an amazing day, and thank you for tuning in.